Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has formally submitted a petition to the anti-corruption agency, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, accusing the chief executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, of corruption and financial impropriety. The petition alleges that Ahmed spent more than $7 million on the education of his 4 children in Switzerland, an amount Dangote claims is grossly inconsistent with the legitimate earnings of a public servant. Dangote further alleges that the funds were diverted from public resources, accusing the NMDPRA boss of using his office as a vehicle for embezzlement and corrupt enrichment. For more on this, petroleum economist Kelvin Emmanuel joins us from our Abuja studio. But before we begin this conversation, we did reach out to the CEO of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Engineer Farouk Ahmed. Repeated calls to his line were unanswered, and messages sent were not replied. Also, Arise News reached out to the NMDPRA's spokesperson, Judge Ene Ita. He also did not respond. So, Kelvin Emmanuel, let's begin the conversation. Good morning, and thank you for joining us and responding to our invitation.
Dr. Abati, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here, and compliments to the season to you, and also to Fire and Ayo.
Good morning.
Very quickly, in this matter between Dangote Refinery, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, and Engineer Farouk Ahmed, CEO of the NMDPRA. Now, allegations have been made. He who alleges must prove. So, from the statement put out there, do you think that Alhaji Aliko Dangote has evidence on his side to pursue this matter? Secondly, the ICPC, which is responsible for this kind of allegation against corrupt public servants, has said it is going to carry out investigations. Are you very optimistic, given the power dynamics involved in this matter, especially between industry and regulator and other players within that scope, that this matter will ever see the light of the day? Because there will be a lot of backroom, back channel, contestations at the level of power. What are your expectations, and do you think there is enough evidence?
Dr. Abati, I first of all want to say that considering nobody has asked Melek Yari how he managed $3 billion for turnaround maintenance for NNPC refineries over 6 years, that was wasted, by the way, and the NMDPRA confirmed in their notes has been shut down. $3 billion for turnaround maintenance. EFCC is not saying anything about that investigation or possible charges for prosecution. I'm not holding my breath for the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria. But it's important to state a few facts. Aliko Dangote is one of the largest, if not the largest taxpayer in Nigeria. I think last year he paid up to $450 billion in taxes, right? So as a taxpayer, he has a right to say that, look, if a government official is allegedly, abusing his office, considering that, the authority chief executive doesn't earn up more than 50 million naira in salary and allowances in a year, and there's been indications that the children that are schooled abroad in the most elite private schools in Europe, in Switzerland has, the boarding schools in Switzerland are more expensive than any boarding schools anywhere in the world. It's more expensive than the UK, okay? If the allegations that the monies that were spent in, maintenance of the kids, flight tickets, school fees, allowances, does not measure with the nearly 50 million naira he earns as the ace of the NMDPRA in Nigeria. Look, sections 19 of the ICPC Act empowers them to investigate and possibly bring out charges. And moreover, Code of Conduct Bureau, they have a form called Form 001 on asset declaration for public servants, or not for under public service rules. And that form all public servants are required to update that form on a yearly basis. Okay? So it's now for the CCB to empower the CCT that they manage, Code of Conduct Tribunal, to review his file, they check his asset declaration from when he joined government, and check his updates on a yearly basis, and then investigate with the school abroad and find out if the rumors that they were placed on scholarship by the school or they were not placed on scholarship, or who exactly funded it. How did they fund the education of his children in Switzerland? And how does it match his income, on a yearly basis in Nigeria as ace of the NMDPRA? So it's an allegation that Aliko Dangote has brought forth, and the burden of proof is on the accuser. So now that his petition has been forwarded to ICPC, they've acknowledged the petition. It's left for the government anti-corruption agencies to investigate. But like I said, I'm not holding my breath, because based on historical precedents, they've not shown that there's political will to actually investigate prosecution, because these monies we're talking about is not anybody's family's money. Nobody in government owns the monies that they are custodians of. They don't own the money. The money belongs to Nigerians.
Kelvin Emmanuel. Now, the devil is in the details. You know that the respondent has a right of self-defense. He has issued a short statement saying he's ready, let them investigate. So, yeah, you are right, the burden of proof is on the person who alleges. But what if he comes up tomorrow and he says, you cannot trace that this money for the payment of my school fees came from NMDPRA? Because you have to show evidence in that regard. What if he comes and he says, oh, my wife is a businesswoman. It's our money that we have been using to send these children to school. What if he says, oh, I have family inheritance. I may be a public servant. So this money came from family inheritance. In fact, you may even discover that the money was never paid directly by him. But what we can establish is that this is a conflict between industry and the regulator, which is a major problem in Nigeria. There are substantial issues. Can you talk about those substantial issues? About importation of fuel, about quality of fuel, about regulatory compliance, about the powers of the regulator.
Okay, so Dr. Batif, I'll answer the first question you asked. Whoever in his family, either his father or his sister or his wife, that claims that they must have sponsored the children in Switzerland to that tune, that clearly doesn't match up with his income as a public servant in Nigeria, they have to show the Nigerian government, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, their tax returns. Show us your tax returns. What business did you do? What industry do you own? The family inheritance that, for example, the rumors indicate that, might have been the source of the funds. What business did the progenitor do to make the money, and where are the tax returns of that business to make the money, so that it's not unexplained wealth that we cannot say where the money didn't fall from the sky. If anybody says that, I have XYZ, I have this financial capacity, the first indication to verify that they have that financial capacity normally in a functional society is their tax returns. You have to show your tax returns. Where are your tax returns to the government? Because if you're not paying tax, you're evading tax, that's a crime on its own. So if any member of his family claims that they sponsored the education of the children in Switzerland, let them show the Nigerian government, FIRS, their tax returns to verify the business they did to earn the money to pay $7 million for tuition.
Okay.
Let them show their tax returns. Where are their tax returns?
All right, Kelvin, I understand, and in the interest of the public, as the statement signed by Alhaji Dangote himself, the advertorial, he had mentioned that Nigerians deserve to know the sources of the sums of money paid, and I do agree with that. However, as Dr. Bati mentioned, there are background issues. It's not just because all of a sudden Alhaji Dangote wants to become, the watchdog of public office holders in Nigeria by exposing the fact that they are spending more than they earn. In the event that, investigations happen, he's found, culpable and taken out of that position, would that solve the challenge, the underlying issue around this regulatory industry impasse? Because what we're looking for is a long-term solution. Not just for one man, to be castigated and taken out. It is, how do we solve the challenges? Would Engineer Farouk Ahmed being out of the picture solve the problem?
Ayo, very good question you asked. Last year, when a license to operate was given to Dangote, Farouk came out hastily and said that Dangote was producing diesel that had 500 ppm sulfur, which was false, because the Dangote refinery has one of the most sophisticated lab for testing all the other metrics, distillation, sulfur, motor octane number, flash point, cloud point, and the rest of them. Okay? He, as the authority chief executive, since the refinery started operations last year, has not visited the refinery. But when NNPC claimed that Warri was working in December, he flew to Warri, held the bottle and said that it was working. When in fact, NNPC deceived Nigerians and the president. And those government-owned refineries are shut down. Now, what are the issues? Within the last 30 days, right, Farouk has granted import licenses to bring in products of about averagely of 50 million liters per day. 50 million liters per day, about 1.8 billion liters of product worth $1.6 billion has been brought into Nigeria within the last 30 days. Number one, does NMDPRA have a lab to test the products coming into Nigeria? Knowing fully well that sections 317.11 of PIA specifies the sulfur limits. The test results that are being banded as certificate of quality, if you subject it to a forensic audit, will this show that those test certificates are true and real and the quality of products brought into Nigeria meets up with regulatory standard, considering that the quality of product determines price? Because a 500 ppm sulfur product is not the same with a 50 ppm sulfur product. Dangote is following PIA. Last year, samples from petrol that was imported into Nigeria was taken randomly from two companies, two filling stations. I won't mention their names. And when the results came out, it was shown that products brought into Nigeria, one of them had sulfur level of over 1,700 ppm. Another one had sulfur level of over 2,500 ppm. Regulatory limits, according to ECOWAS standards that Nigeria abides by, is 50 ppm. So why will you hold Dangote to PIA and then completely refuse to hold the marketers to the standard, considering that the quality of the product determines the price? Number two, Russia has been sanctioned. Russia is under an oil price cap of $45 a barrel. Marketers, Nigerian traders, in collaboration with international traders, they go and buy mazout condensates in Primorsk and Novorossiysk. They go to Kazakhstan, buy crude, they refine to naphtha. Naphtha is the base compound for refining PMS. You cannot consume naphtha as petrol. Then they come to Lomé, they transship it through a shadow fleet, they blend it. As we speak, and I'm saying this, you can quote me anywhere, there's a 2 million metric ton floating storage and offloading vessel in Lomé, Togo, that can hold 2.6 billion liters of petrol and diesel at every single time.
Kelvin.
Why is Togo determining our energy security? And why is Nigeria, as a signatory to international law,
Kelvin,
violating international law by saying that it's going to violate the sanctions that have been placed on Russia when they are buying crude oil at the $20 discount to what Dangote is buying?
Kelvin. Okay. You've made most of these arguments, but all I want to see is the bank transaction indicating the payment of Mr. Farouk to these schools. Do you by any chance have it in Switzerland? And the date of payment?
I'm not the one who, Rufai, I'm not the one who made the accusation.
No. But
Alhaji has said to his lawyer, to ICPC, that if the court...
Kelvin, you're here to speak for the Dangote Group. You speak in defense of the Dangote Group. So if somebody made an accusation, we want empirical evidence. All I'm just asking is, do you have the bank transaction of this to the schools listed, La Rose and a couple of other schools, in favor of the Farouk kids and the dates these transactions were made?
Rufai, when the matter gets to court and the court requests for evidence, the parties will produce evidence in discovery to the court.
Can you confirm to me if the parties have that evidence?
Alhaji has said through his lawyer to ICPC that if they need him to produce evidence, he will bring evidence. So let us wait for him to bring evidence to ICPC.
But you do not have the evidence as we speak. So if you do not have the evidence...
Rufai, as I said,
hang on
I'm not the one...
Kevin.
I'm not the petitioner. I'm not the petitioner.
Kevin, you are not the petitioner, but you are here to speak in favor of the petitioner. That's why you're here. You're speaking for the Dangote Group, pure and simple, Kevin. But you do not have that
because
evidence.
His interest is the interest of Nigerians.
No, this is your own interest, Kevin, all right? But you are here to speak in favor of the Dangote group. So you do not have that evidence. As long as you don't have that evidence, you can't also espouse this talk about corruption. If you had the evidence, we'll have talked to facts. So I don't think there's any question to ask you. I'm done. Kevin.
Okay, Kelvin. What do you think of the ICPC saying, we are going to investigate this? Because you sound like the outcome of the investigation is predetermined. What if the ICPC comes and it says, we don't think Farouk Ahmed has a case to answer? Then what next?
Dr. Abati, I'm not holding my breath, like I said. I cited the fact that despite the fact that $3 billion of Nigeria's hard-earned money that was borrowed from Afrexim, by the way, right?
No.
And crude oil was paid in exchange.
No. That's not a related case. What we have before us is a Whistleblowers Act. And then the state agencies have the right to investigate. It's on the basis of investigation and its outcome that they will prosecute. Just deal with the matter at hand. Don't say another matter, this and that. No, that's not how to read issues legally.
Dr. Abati, is there political will in Nigeria to fight corruption? Is there political will to fight corruption? That's the question I want to ask. Is there political will in Nigeria to fight corruption in Nigeria today? Is there political will to fight corruption? Are the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria truly independent? Is there political will to fight corruption? Because if there was political will to fight corruption, right, NNPC's former management and board should be answering questions at EFCC today for how they wasted $3 billion and those refineries are shut down. Is there political will to fight corruption? Why is EFCC not saying anything about $3 billion that was wasted of Nigeria's money? Why are they not saying anything about it?
Okay.
So is there political will to fight corruption in this country?
Okay. Thank you very much, Kelvin Emmanuel, for joining us.